We'll get started. Let's pray to the video gods that this thing records. If it doesn't, we have the recording loom.
Yes, Vikram, I'm recording.
Okay. Cool. So for the all, thank you for coming up for this second part of Bitcoin and blockchain. Last time was a very fun and interactive session. We talked a lot about the fundamentals and the core stuff, and this time we will basically be building on top of that and going into some technicals, a lot of data, and a lot of other interesting things. Again, as usual, as last time, ask questions. If you have questions, don't mind interrupting me. Ask whatever question you have, be it technical, non-technical. I don't mind being interrupted and stuff. Yeah, all the new people who weren't in the previous session, hope you've seen the previous video. And yeah, if you haven't, you don't understand something, again, ask questions. That's how everyone will learn. So I'm assuming everyone can see the presentation. Yes.
Yep.
Cool. All right, so let's start off by recapping what we went through last time. So for starters, we looked at what Bitcoin is and what are the core USPs that it is basically aiming for. We talked about the genesis of Bitcoin. We talked about the white paper. We talked about the Genesis block being mined, when it was mined. Some pointers about Satoshi Nakamoto, some famous quotes by him, him, her, they. We talked about Byzantine generals problem and how this problem is core to distributed computing, and how Bitcoin is the first to achieve Byzantine fault tolerance in a generic way. We talked about what blockchain is, the basics of blockchain, how it works, how it records the entire history in a signature format, how every block basically knows what happened before it. We talked about hashing. We talked about proof of work, some attack vectors on proof of work, and how either they are just not possible, or B, miners are economically disincentivized to actually go ahead and attack the network. We talked about 51% attack. Talked about difficulty and how the network keeps on readjusting its difficulty with respect to new hash rate coming in to maintain an average 10-minute block time. Saw some stats about difficulty and how it's increasing exponentially. We talked about mining, how anyone can go ahead and download the Bitcoin source code and start mining. Talk about evolution of mining, how current mining farms look like, the hash rate, how the current hash rate looks like and how it has been increasing. Talked about pools, and how you can join pools, and to be able to actually be mine blocks and stuff, and the current hash rate distribution. So now we will start with where we left off last time, and that is distribution. This is something that we touched base last time too, because some questions were asked for that. So as we all know, Bitcoins just don't come up just like that. Bitcoins can only be mined. For every new block that is created, the miner is basically given Bitcoins as a block reward. The total Bitcoins that will ever be will be 21 million. That's it. It's basically written in code. And currently, almost 18.4 million bitcoins have been mined. That's almost 87.6% of the supply is already mined. And all the bitcoins, that is 21 million bitcoins, will be mined by the year 2140. So basically, it will take 120 more years to go ahead and mine all of these bitcoins. We discussed about how this happens, but if someone can go ahead and tell me how this happens. How is it that we've already mined 87.6% of bitcoins in the last 10 years, and the rest 12.4% bitcoins will take 120 more years to be mined?
It gets exponentially harder to mine bitcoins.
Not exactly. The hard part is getting hard part is the hash rate thing, but that has nothing to do with the actual block rewards coming out.
You had mentioned something about halvening last time. I don't exactly remember it, but I think that's got something to do with it.
That is correct. Sachin said, yes, that is correct. So there is something known as the halving. Every 210,000 blocks, the block reward is halved. So basically, from 0 to 209,999 block, the block reward was 50 bitcoins, which is where we stated that, when the Genesis block was created by Satoshi, he got 50 bitcoins as a block reward. And then the halving happened. So the block 210,000 till 419,999 block, the block reward is 25 bitcoins. And then another halving happens, and that's how we keep on progressing. So now, if we take an average 10-minute block time, 210,000 blocks basically correlates to 4 years. So basically, a halving happens every 4 years. Till now, Bitcoin has went through 3 halvings, and the third halving just happened 1.5 months back. It happened on May 11th. So the current block reward is 6.25 bitcoins for each block that is being generated right as of now after the halving. Again, this happens automatically by code without any human intervention. So when the halving was about to happen, like a lot of people were excited, and the community was like doing live streams and stuff. Even I was awake and watching it live, and it just happened. Like the block 630,000 just came up, and the block reward had switched to half. And since then, that's the block reward that kept on happening. It was very interesting. Like, it just happened. Nothing special, just happened. So that basically means that Bitcoin has an exponentially decreasing supply issuance, which basically means that Bitcoin is a disinflationary asset. That means that it has inflation because new supply is coming out, but the inflation keeps on decreasing with time. So after the current halving, Bitcoin's inflation has decreased to 1.8%, which is lower than the 2% target reference that central banks aim for. And if you have to plot the distribution curve, this is how it looks like. So you will see that the halving keeps on happening every 4 years. And this is the overall supply being mined. So by this is like asymptotically, this tends towards 21 million, and this currently is plotting the inflation. But then again, you can correlate that this area was where 50 bitcoins was the block reward. This was 25, 12.5, 6.25, and that's how the inflation basically keeps on decreasing. These are the block numbers. We currently sit somewhere over here. So this is where 18.4 million supply has been mined. and the inflation rate is somewhere around, this is again log scale, this is linear scale, but this is log scale, so it comes out to be around 1.8%. Cool. Any questions till now? Joy, you had a lot of questions.
No, yes, I'm here. Vikram. So, okay,
So you have a question.
exponentially. Yes, I do. I was trying to look at the curve because on my phone screen I couldn't see it. The one that you just showed the.
Okay, I will just go back. Can
But
you
how
see it
do
now?
I see the screen?
Can
Is
you
it
see
on
it?
your?
Can you see it now?
Wait, is it on your other screen? Oh yes. Okay.
No.
Got it now. Got it. I can see it now.
Right. So this is the decreasing supply
Supply.
issuance, basically on log scale, which is hence you can see it linearly, and this is
Yeah.
the overall supply accruing with time. So it tends towards 21 million. Cool. Any other questions?
I will ask my question later. I'm still formulating it in my head.
Just go ahead and ask. You'll forget.
I won't. Because right now it might sound very stupid. I'll ask.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, so it gets halved, right? Every time when you reach certain amount, it gets halved.
4 years.
Every 4 years, it gets halved. Now, I mean, if it gets halved, then what is the impetus of me to mine more? Right? Last time I used to mine, I would get 50 bitcoins. Now I get what, 6.5 bitcoins. Then why should I keep mining?
Cool. It's a good question, actually. A very core thesis comes from Satoshi's this quote. The price of any commodity tends to gravitate towards the production cost. If the price is below cost, then production slows down. If the price is above cost, profit can be made by generating and selling more. At the same time, the increased production would increase the difficulty, pushing the cost of generating towards the price. So basically, the whole thing is that as the halving happens, miners are basically, some miners will start getting unprofitable, they'll shut down, which will decrease the difficulty, and hence some miners will get more profitable, so they will start mining more, they'll start putting more hash power, and that's how that balance happens. So it's not like Bitcoin's price is always going to be stagnant at a point. It is going to follow a very nice semblance of how block rewards are coming out and how the hash rate is increasing and stuff. So if you see historically, when 50 bitcoins was the block reward, Bitcoin's price was wavering somewhere around $30 or something, right? So actually the money that you would make was somewhere around what, $1,500, right?
30 times 50. Yeah.
Right. Now it's 6.25.
Now you're saying because 6.5 times the value per Bitcoin is much higher.
It's much higher. So the whole mechanics follows a very nice game theory mechanics, whereby as more hash rate keeps on coming in, it becomes more difficult. So as it becomes more difficult, whomsoever can mine keeps mining, can't mine, they shut off, and basically price follows the hash rate, and then the halving keeps on happening, so Bitcoin keeps on getting its store of value sort of property, and that whole thing just merges into a mechanism whereby the price also follows that. So if it is actually not profitable for you, or for any miner for that matter, they will shut down and they will not mine it because it will not make sense, and hence the hash rate will decrease. So the fact that now I can't really state like like why exactly all the pinpoints of how this works, but it has kept on working in that way, in a sense that if it's not profitable, you will not mine it because it doesn't make sense. If it becomes profitable, you'll start mining it, and the price sort of follows all of these things in a very interesting way. If that
Got
was
it.
able
So
to
it's like
explain.
issuing shares, right? I mean, if our company has to issue more shares, for example, the per share price will drop, but the quantity of shares will increase. So eventually, it turns out to be the same. So this is what I can refer it to, I guess.
I mean,
Something like that.
yes and no. The whole thesis is that as like your Bitcoin block rewards keep on decreasing, the block rewards plus the transaction fees needs to be profitable for you. If it's not profitable, you shut down your miner and stuff. You won't mine it, which is I can't really put it into words of how price actually follows that, but it does, because
No, I get the idea. I get the basic idea. I guess through the session, let me pay more attention, and maybe it'll become more clear in my head. But yeah, I get the basic idea. Let's continue.
cool. I'll also actually look into this and try to find a more mathematical explanation to it. Cool. So let's get into keys and addresses, and let's watch another video. Can you hear this? Can you hear it?
Vikram, we can't hear the voice in video.
No, I can't hear it.
Even I can't hear it.
No.
That's weird. Even I can't hear it.
Check the volume.
Oh no, my volume is fine.
Vikram, apparently the presentation is muted. I think somehow I can see a presentation muted sign coming up on my screen.
Yes,
yeah.
the red speaker thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that so? Were you able to see the presentation moving beforehand or no?
Yeah. This is the presentation. Volume is muted, so that's all. You should be able to unmute it from.
I
moving
did that. I did that.
Okay.
Let's see.
Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin allow people to transact with each other using the internet anywhere on Earth. Instead of having an account number like a checking account or a credit card, cryptocurrencies are much more secure because they have a public key and a private key. It's like having two account numbers, one for deposits and another for withdrawals. You'll often see them displayed as a string of characters or a scannable code. This level of security means that you could put your public key on a billboard if you wanted to, and your funds would still be secure. The only thing other people can do with your public key is send funds to you. It's your private key that gives you access to your funds. As long as you keep control of your private key, your funds are absolutely safe, and theft and fraud are virtually impossible. But, just like cash in your wallet, you need to keep it safe to prevent it from being stolen. Its security is entirely your responsibility. Cryptocurrencies can also give you privacy. Just like cash, you don't have to disclose any personal information when you spend them. By contrast, a credit card has your name, account number, and expiration date. These act like a public key, but the equivalent of your private key, your signature and security code, are displayed in plain sight. This is just plain stupid. I've toured 5 national money museums, and while I was at one of them, I saw a group of young students on a school outing. I can just imagine that someday in the future, a group of kids will be standing around the credit card display, pointing and laughing at the incredible stupidity of the system we once used. And this is the point. Cryptocurrencies are light years ahead of our current technology.
Cool. So some things to note over here. Again, there are two keys: public key, private key. the transactions can only go out of your addresses if you by using your private key, which is where the whole thing comes out of you being able to own your own money. You are responsible for that private key. If you lose it, or if someone somehow copies it from you, uh, uh, if you basically lose it, you basically lose access to those funds. Someone copies it from you, they can take out funds. So basically, there aren't any third parties involved, which is, and that basically happens. So the whole theme is that you should be able to control your own money, which is why third parties aren't really required. But with great power comes great responsibility. So you have to take onus of securing that private key yourself, so that no one else get access to it, or you don't lose access to it.
Vikram, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Say, for example, a person or me, I have a fortune of Bitcoin and I die. What happens to those Bitcoins? I mean, they're lost forever. Do they come back to the counting? Because there is going to be only 21 million Bitcoins ever be minted. What happens to the entire circulation?
What did you say initially? If you have some Bitcoins, what happens?
Say, for example, I'm a very rich man and I have a fortune of Bitcoins, like a 10,000 Bitcoins,
Okay.
and I die.
Oh, you die. Okay.
With my private key.
Right.
Nobody knows. Yeah, I die, and nobody knows my private keys. That Bitcoins can never be accessed again. So what happens to that entire circulation of Bitcoins?
They go
do
out
they get
of,
back to the circulation?
No, they go out of circulation. No one has access to them, which is why the moment you're talking about
What will happen if
Pardon?
Say, for example, Bitcoin is the currency across the globe, and people lose Bitcoin's keys or die with them. What happens to those lost Bitcoin?
Got the question. So those Bitcoins. Okay. So again, if you die, or if you lose, or if there is no way to access them, they are gone in a way that they can't be accessed, so they can never move. So hence they will not be in the true circulating supply. That's it. They don't get recycled, nothing like that. So the moment you're talking about you having onus of having true access to your own money without anyone else being able to have access to it, or no third parties in between, you have to take onus of making sure that if such circumstances happen, how can someone from your family be able to access it? So you have to make sure that you have backed them up somewhere and have told people where they have been backed up, so that they can recover them from those backup seeds and stuff, from those private keys. If you have a big fortune and you haven't done all of those things, you haven't told anyone about it, and you go ahead and die, they are gone, because no one will be able to access them.
Sure.
So it's a yin and yang thing. You get a lot of benefits by having such a thing, by having such power, but then you have to make sure that you have done all the due diligence of making sure that, if such circumstances happen, how do you make sure that other people can get access to that? Interestingly, there are other just a second. Interestingly,
the Bitcoins not from the circulation.
They're gone. They're not in circulation. That's it. No one. If no one has access.
The overall value of Bitcoin across the globe.
It does actually, because think about this. Value is nothing but created from a mixture of supply and demand, right? If demand is still there,
right,
when people are dying, demand doesn't go away just like that. Demand is still there, but when people either lose access to them, the circulating supply decreases, which basically means that the price will appreciate.
Sure.
So all circulating, anyone who loses access is like doing sort of like charity work for all the other people, in a way. Interesting stat. Till now, it's perceived that almost 3 to 4 million bitcoins have been lost. A lot of them were initially mined. People didn't care much about them. People mined them in their hard disks, forgot about them, threw the hard disks away. Things like this have also happened where people have got some bitcoins, but they didn't store their private keys somewhere or didn't tell people about it, and they passed away. So then they lost access. So since you can look at the blockchain, you can see how many bitcoins haven't moved since XYZ time. You can guesstimate of how many bitcoins are actually lost, and via that mechanism, it's guesstimated that almost 3 to 4 million bitcoins are already lost.
Wow, so it's a very high number. Cool. Thanks, Anil. Thanks for answering.
No problems. Cool. So, keys and addresses. Let's get some more information about it. So this public key private key thing that was being talked about is something known as asymmetric key cryptography. Now I guess by this time you would have figured out why we call all of this thing as crypto, because everything builds on top of cryptography. So this asymmetric key cryptography is basically used in many modern day applications like HTTPS certificates, SSH, etc., etc. Another thing to note is that public keys and private keys are generated in unique pairs. So you will never have a private key that correlates to two public keys. You will never have a public key that correlates to two private keys. They always are generated in a unique pair and directly correlate to each other. It's completely safe to share public keys, aka your address. Private keys basically cannot be interpreted using just the public key. So it's absolutely safe to share public keys, and that's how you actually go ahead and if you want someone to transfer some crypto to you, you show them your public key. Transactions can only be sent to public keys. For any transaction to move out of the public key address, it needs to be signed by the corresponding private key, which is why securing your private key is so important. Bitcoin uses ECDSA, which is basically elliptic curve digital signature algorithm. This is relatively more newer and optimized than other similar algorithms like RSA and DSA and stuff. And this is the cornerstone of how you and only you can access your Bitcoin, whereby the whole censorship resistance comes into play, and the removal of all intermediary requirement for any intermediate third party goes away. This is another very important concept to understand. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. A lot of people go ahead and just purchase this on exchanges and just keep it over there. That is not safe. Why? Because exchanges are nothing but centralized servers with centralized databases and stuff. They will have their own private keys, whereby they will have all the liquidity of all the Bitcoins which are being exchanged and stuff. Obviously, exchanges don't work on the blockchain. They are just working on centralized servers. The blockchain aspect only comes in when you are depositing something to an exchange or withdrawing some crypto from the exchange. That's when the blockchain transfer actually happens. So if you go ahead and leave your crypto on exchanges, and let's say some hacker hacks the database of that exchange and takes away the private key of that exchange and removes all the crypto from that address, the crypto exchange will file for bankruptcy and your Bitcoins will be gone. This has happened before, which is why if you have any crypto on exchanges, you need to withdraw it out to your own wallets whose keys are controlled by you. So Andreas Antonopoulos says that in a very much more nicer way. What, this didn't play.
Simple rule. If you control the keys, it's your Bitcoin. If you don't control the keys, it's not your Bitcoin. Your keys, your Bitcoin. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Your keys, your Bitcoin. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Your keys, your Bitcoin. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin.
This concept is so important that someone just made, like, looped this for 1 hour and made a video of it. So yeah, remember this thing. If you have something on your exchange, remove it out into your wallets. If you are doing that and you are absolutely new, you're scared of how to use that, just do a small test transaction to see that everything, whatever you're doing, is the right thing that you're doing. Do a small test transaction. If you receive that in your wallet, everything is fine. Do another transaction of 30% value, everything is fine. Remove all of that value. If anyone wants to watch anything wants to learn more about Cryptos, wants to watch someone, Andreas Antonopoulos is probably the first guy you should start watching and start following stuff. Cool. So that's how you go ahead and can make a transfer to a particular address. This is my public address for Bitcoin. I use a HD wallet, which is a hierarchically deterministic wallet, which keeps on changing the public keys with respect to a seed, because that creates more privacy. But yeah, if, like, let's say someone wants to give me some Bitcoins, they can just transfer it to me using this. So this is the public key, and this is represented in the QR code. A very good, interesting way would be, like, if I publish this video and someone is seeing this video and really likes it and wants to, donate something to me, they can just transfer it over here. And this is also another
quick question, Vikram. Sorry, question about that expiring public key. Now, let's say you put that video on YouTube, and years later somebody's watching that.
Yes.
But your public key has moved on. So is that old address still mapped to you, or it keeps getting reused?
Yeah. It's not an expiring thing. It's basically what it does is, using that seed, it can generate multiple key pairs. So it keeps on generating multiple key pairs. The moment I receive some transaction, it'll generate another key pair, and any transaction that comes to the previous one, that also it can account for. So that's called hierarchically deterministic wallets.
Oh, okay.
But Vikram, why do we need to do that? Since it's a public key, it's like, even if people know about it, our privacy is not compromised, right? So why the need for this hierarchical structure?
So interestingly, since everything is public, let's say you go ahead and do a transfer to an exchange, right? On an exchange, the exchange asks for your details and your KYC, and someone wants to investigate, right? And they have the power to do that. Let's say some agency, they can actually go to the exchange and say that, give me his information. They see his information, they see from what address that was transferred, and now they can go to that address and see the trail. Right? So this basically, if you are concerned about privacy, this increases your privacy, because it keeps on increasing, adding newer addresses and stuff, and then you can decide from what address you want to make a transaction and stuff. Doing really deep analytics, even this can probably be cracked to some extent, but it just increases privacy. So a lot of wallets just use that as a default thingy.
Right. All right, got it. Thanks.
Cool. So now another very interesting usage of this. So there's a artist known as Pascal Boyart. He drew this mural somewhere in France, or maybe Paris or something. And what he did was, so this is for you'll be knowing about the French Gilles Juan, and he basically drew this and then hid clues to which actually lead to a private key. And in that, he put in like $1,000 of bitcoins worth bitcoins at that time, which has increased with time. So that was like a treasure hunt that he created. And a lot of people have tried to crack this. I don't know whether it has been cracked or not. Very good thing about how these treasure hunts can happen is that the person creating the treasure hunt will release the public key, but will say you have to find the private key. So before even starting to find the private key, you can always go ahead and look at the public key, and see whether the treasure hunt has actually been solved or not. Because if it's been solved, someone would have taken it out. So he did that, and then along with that, he also basically went ahead and put his own public key for donations. I think this was done like not sure, 2 years back, I guess, a year and a half back, and so I just took the liberty of scanning the code and going to his public address to see how many people have actually donated to him till now. And I saw that almost 1.16 bitcoins have been donated to him. So that's almost like $11,000 in current price terms. So that's like pretty interesting, because now like anyone who goes over there, likes the mural, can just donate some bitcoins, and you can actually also see how much has been donated and stuff. And there are a lot of other murals which have done and use this concept and stuff, and a lot of other people who are using banners for the same thing. Cool. So okay, let me just ask you a question. What is the difference between a wallet and an address? Does anyone know that? Anyone? Something? No? All right. So wallet addresses are basically the native thing on the blockchain itself. That's how you do all the transactions and stuff. Wallets are nothing but interfaces which make it easy for you to be able to manage those addresses, create new addresses, etc., etc. So they are the interfaces. So there are a lot of software wallets out there. You have imToken, you have Mycelium, you have Trust Wallet. I personally use this for this for Bitcoin, and this for everything else. Not everything else, but whatever is supported. But this supports a lot of other, lot of chains. Also supports Bitcoin, but I use this because this is much more powerful. Is everyone able to hear me, by the way?
Yep.
Cool. So now the thing to note is that you should only use open source wallets, because again, this whole game is completely open source, because everything needs to be so well thought of and so well coded that if there is any vulnerability out there, that needs to be seen. So any closed source just doesn't work in this sector. So you should only use open source wallets. It leads to anyone being able to look into code and find vulnerabilities and stuff. Most wallets follow BIP 39 standard. Now BIP stands for Bitcoin Incremental Proposals. So basically, since Bitcoin is open source, there's a mechanism of how proposals can come up for upgrades and stuff. And this is basically the way of how Bitcoin proposals come up. So there was the 39th proposal that came up. BIP 39 was basically a standard for a 12-word random seed to use to generate your addresses. Now, not every proposal needs to be corely related to Bitcoin. Something can be related to its ecosystem also, which BIP 39 is. So basically, instead of you having to note down or memorize all of that random string, there are 12 words which will act as your seed, which correlate to that, which create that public key private key pair. And that is all that you need to safely back up. If you've done that, you're all safe and set. Wallets nowadays have progressed a lot. So they have dApp browsers. They have there's a concept of decentralized applications now. So they have dApp browsers and support multiple chains. The private key is stored safely within the wallet, which is why this open source thingy is so important. And now the thing is that you should use this only for small amounts. Can anyone tell me why? Someone? No one? All right. No clue. Cool. Even though, yes, it's open source. Yes, there won't be you would have figured out vulnerabilities and stuff. Yes, there is a safety issue. The safety issue could be things like some operating system flaw comes out, right? Which isn't thought of. There could be some other exploits which are just not obvious. So because the software wallets are connected to the internet and are on your operating system, which can have malwares, a lot of other things happen. Zero-day vulnerabilities keep on coming up, which is why software wallets, you can use them. Pretty much it's safe. I have been using it. Nothing has happened. So it's almost safe, but just to not have that, even that minuscule safety issue, you typically use this for smaller amounts. So what do you use for larger amounts? You go ahead and use hardware wallets. Now, hardware wallets are basically air gapped. So basically they are not connected to the internet. They are not a general purpose software device. They are a specific hardware device. And the private key resides in that hardware. It never leaves that hardware, which is why it is so secure. So these are typically accompanied by desktop and mobile apps. And private keys only reside in the hardware and never leave it. So how do you do transactions? You go ahead and create a transaction using the app, and then the app sends that transaction to the hardware device. The hardware device then signs the transaction using the private key, and then sends back the signed transaction back to the app. And then the app goes ahead and broadcasts the signed transaction on the network. So this mechanism can be used as a cold storage for large amounts. I personally use this. This is basically Ledger Nano X. I actually use a Ledger Nano S, which was a previous model when this model hadn't come out. Probably might try something else afterward because I already have one of these. But this is how you store large amounts if you have large amounts. So like this is Ledger Nano X. This is Trezor. This is Engrave. Probably try one of these out after some time. Cool. Okay, let me ask a question. Let's say you lost your mobile or you lost your hardware wallet. What do you do? Let's couple that question with the same thing what Taha has asked. Let's say the hardware device crashes also. Hardware device crashes, or you lose the hardware device, or you lose your phone. What do you do? Phone or whatever.
You still have your private key, right? I mean, you can have that stored somewhere. So use that to access.
That is right. That is perfect. So the whole thing is that your money doesn't reside inside this. Your money doesn't reside on your phone. Your money resides on the blockchain. Blockchain is everywhere, right? The way to access that money is the seed. So as long as you have stored and backed up that seed, that 12-word phrase or 24-word phrase, there are also those variants. As long as you have backed up that thing properly, if you lose your phone or you lose your hardware device, you just get another phone, get another hardware device or any other medium, use that seed, gain access to that account, assume that that account is going to be compromised because someone might find that phone or find that hardware device, try to break it, create another seed, like create another address using another seed and transfer it. So as long as you have the seed, you have access to it. It doesn't matter whether you lose your devices or not, which also states the point that the money doesn't reside in these devices. It resides in the address on that blockchain, which is accessed via that seed, which creates that private key and public key pair. Cool. So now we come to something known as blockchain explorers. Taha said bouncer. Why Taha? Go ahead and tell me what you didn't understand.
Vikram, this whole thing of the keys of every single transaction being stored in a 12-letter word and uska backup in these devices, and if I lose these devices, how do I go back? I'm pura confused over here.
Okay, cool. So did we talked about this 12-word random seed, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you're creating a wallet, it's gonna give you a good mute yourself.
Yeah.
So it's gonna give you a 12-word random seed, right? That 12-word random seed is gonna in turn link to or create a public key private key pair for you internally, right? Private key will be stored internally, public key will be shown to you, right? So basically that 12-word seed is how that public key private key pair is being created, right? Now the public key private key is how you use to actually access your funds. If someone has sent or you have sent money to that public key, you can access it via that private key, right? Now let's say you lose your phone or you lose your hardware device which stores that private key, which has been created using the 12-word random seed. So if you lose it, the money doesn't reside in that. The money resides in the blockchain. The value resides in the blockchain. So if you lose that, you just get another device, use that 12-word random seed to recreate that public key private key pair, right? You don't do that. The device does that automatically for you. But it only using that particular 12-word random seed can you actually create that. The moment you create that, you have access to your funds. Got it? If you're saying yes or no, you're on mute.
Yes, Vikram, got it. Thank you so much.
No problem. So as we stated, this is a public network. Everything is queryable, which is why there are blockchain explorers. You can actually go ahead and look into the whole blockchain in real time as to what is happening, and or you want to go ahead and look into it historically. So now there are many blockchain explorers out there, and there are several for every network out there. So using a blockchain explorer, you can see the blocks created in real time, all information about the blocks, all transactions and their details, look at transactions in any public address, plethora of other on-chain statistics. So let's go ahead and look at a blockchain explorer. I'll just present another window. Can everyone see this? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
So now if you look at it, it has some metrics. It basically says estimated, what is the estimated hash rate, the transaction volume happening, how many transaction volume in Bitcoin and stuff, how many transactions in the last 24 hours. And then you have all the latest transactions happening, and you can see that they are updating in real time, right? And the latest blocks are also over here. So let's go ahead and look at the blocks that have been created. Cool. So the last block was actually created 26 minutes ago. So as I said, like, the average 10-minute time is an average time. It averages over a longer duration. So blocks can be created faster or slower depending upon when the hash is found. Last one was created 26 minutes ago, then it was 33 minutes ago, then it was 36 minutes ago, then 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour. So yeah, if you average out on a longer time span, it will come out to be on an average 10 minutes. And you have all the hashes, you have which miner actually mined the block. So let's go ahead and look into this block. And you will see the hash of that block, the height at which it is, the number of transactions in that block, the difficulty of that block, the Merkle root, etc., etc., a lot of other variables. What was the block reward, and what was the fees paid for all the transactions within that block. And actually, if you go ahead and look at the transaction volume, so this block had transactions accruing to almost 7.7 thousand Bitcoins, which basically means that almost $7 million worth transactions happened in this block right as of now. And then you will see a lot of transactions with all the transactions within the block. What is the hash of each transaction? What was the input address? What was the output addresses? By the way, Bitcoin uses a UTXO model, which is unspent transaction outputs. And it basically has a single input and multiple outputs. So every transaction will have a single input and can have multiple outputs. So one transaction can actually be going as an output to multiple addresses. That's just how it is designed. You can go ahead and look at all the transactions. You can go inside a transaction, and then you can see what is the status, how many confirmations it has had, because it's just a new block, so it's only one confirmation right as of now. What was the total input, what was the total output, what was the fees paid by that transaction, etc., etc. And then you have all of these other hashing things and signature things that have happened. So everything that has happened in that block is visible. You can go ahead and explore the whole blockchain and look at a lot of other interesting things. So not only this, but you can actually go ahead and even look at a lot of different interesting charts, which are again real-time queried. So you can look at average block size, average transactions per block, total hash rate, miners revenue, total transaction fees, etc., 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 network activity. Let's go ahead and look at unique addresses used. So if I do all time, 30-day average, logarithmic scale, linear scale, you will see the unique addresses basically going ahead and increasing with time. Not that exponential as the hash rate and stuff, but still increasing. You can probably also go into, let's say, block details. In block details, you can look at average transactions per block, and then all time, 30-day average, and then the average transactions per block has basically kept on increasing. This is the number of transactions happening per block. So yeah, a lot of different statistics that you can go here and query the blockchain in real time and look at it. I'll just go back. All right, can you see the presentation again? Cool. So that's Blockchain Explorers. Question. This is for the next slide, which I'll not go to right as of now. I've asked this to a lot of people beforehand. Let me see, but I'll still ask it again. Which is the only asset which has kept its purchasing power through millennia?
Gold.
Gold.
That's right. Gold and or other precious metal. Right? Then let's talk about the properties of. So these are the properties of money. Verifiability, fungibility, portability, durability, divisibility, etc., etc. And we will compare how fiat, which is basically your normal currencies, compares with gold, which compares with, and how that compares with Bitcoin. So verifiability. Verifiability is very important because you need to verify how much money is where, with whom, etc. Just like money can't just be just up in the air like that, right? You need to know how much supply is there. You need to know where is all that supply. You need to know whether when something was transferred to someone, did that transfer actually happen or not. So now fiat are actually moderate on verifiability because yes, you can verify all the digital transactions, but cash transactions are very difficult to verify, and it's also very difficult to verify what are the actual reserves that that banks and custodians actually have, which is why there are so many audit trails happening and so many regulations and stuff. So fiat gets a moderate on that. Gold gets a moderate on that because again, there's no very good way of verifying how much gold is where. You have some semblance how much gold is within some country, within some regions and stuff, but you don't really know how much gold is, like, you know, with XYZ person or entity or region and stuff. And a lot of fake gold also comes up out there. So it's also its purity. So its verifiability, you can say it is moderate. Bitcoin, I will actually create a new, I will also start creating new sections. I'll say Bitcoin is actually ultra high because it's absolutely simple to verify anything for Bitcoin because you can go ahead, query the blockchain and it's verified. Everything, whenever transactions happened, it actually is verified. That is how the whole consensus mechanism is working. So there is no third party involved. There is no need for any audit trails and anything. It gets ultra high on verifiability. Fungibility. What fungibility basically means is that let's take two entities, which is basically the same thing, 2 ounces of gold, one Bitcoin, or one USD. And if let's say you swap them, can you tell the difference? That is what fungibility is. Fiat gets a high on that. I would actually argue that fiat should get like a high to moderate in this because notes can be torn, notes can be signed, all in a way. If you do digital transactions using fiat also, there is a trace route. So basically, if let's say I transferred X dollars to someone, someone transferred X dollars again to someone else, and then that someone got some extra dollars for someone else and then transferred back to me, there is a different route that those X dollars went through. So it's, in true sense, there is some fungibility difference. So fiat gets a high to moderate in that. Gold gets a high because 2 ounces of gold, you can't go ahead and say where they have been or whatever, and they are absolutely the same thing. So gold gets a high. Bitcoin would also get a high to moderate in that because the same, although actually the high to moderate of Bitcoin will be more than the fiat, because in fiat, like you have the cash thingy too, but Bitcoin doesn't have that, but the trace problem still remains. Like the two different bitcoins can come through different trace routes. So it gets a high to moderate in that. Portability. How easy is it to port, like, take that money with you? Fiat gets a high, very easy, as long as you're not talking about cash, but that's fine. Gold gets a low. You can't go ahead and keep on carrying your gold wherever you want to transact and stuff. Bitcoin gets a high, very easily portable. Durability. Durability basically means that if you have some X thing, can it live through the lifetime, or can it live through the years? Fiat gets a low. I would actually argue fiat gets moderate, because a lot of thing is digital, and the low thing comes for the cash part, but a lot of it is digital, so it'll get a moderate in that. Gold gets high. If you have gold, it's lying somewhere, it will be there, never gets destroyed. Bitcoin, I would argue, is moderate to high. Why? If you have Bitcoin, it will always stay there, nothing happens. But the reason you can decrease it a little bit is because people tend to be careless about that, lose their seeds, or don't keep it securely, so someone can just steal it and stuff. So that you can decrease a little bit for durability from that aspect. So let's say Bitcoin gets like a moderate to high in that. Divisibility. How easy is it to divide that to do transactions and stuff? Fiat, it's given low. I would actually argue that it is moderate to high. High because digital transactions easy to divide. Moderate because cash not easy to divide. So it gets a moderate to high. Gold low. I would actually argue it's ultra low. That it's just not easy to divide gold and melt it and then divide it into smaller things and do transactions with that. And Bitcoin is high. In fact, I would argue Bitcoin is ultra high, because Bitcoin currently can go into 8 decimal digits, and there's no cash component on Bitcoin. Everything is digital, so very easy to divide and go ahead and send them. Scarcity. This is a very, very, very important point, because scarcity is what leads to store of value properties. Fiat is low. It's very easy to print money. You have seen within the past 3 months itself, so much money has been printed out there for whatever reasons. But that's not the first time. That history is full of those occurrences. History is full of hyperinflations of different fiats and stuff. So fiat gets a low in that. Gold gets moderate, because even though it is scarce, new mines keep on being discovered. There are some asteroids which are discovered with gold mines, which asteroid mining will become a thing afterwards. And then there are some mechanisms in which chemical gold is being figured out. So gold gets a moderate. Bitcoin actually gets ultra high in this. There will only be 21 million Bitcoins ever. So it is very, very provably scarce. Established history. I would argue fiat is moderate in this, because fiat has established history of the longest running fiat is basically British pound, which is 200, 300 years old. US dollar is 1 century old. Most of the other fiats are like some decades old. Gold high, been there since millennia, works, has kept its purchasing power and stuff. Can't really be used for transactioning in these modern times. But yeah, keeps its purchasing power. And Bitcoin is low, only 10 years of established history, and that's probably this is the main reason why people really don't understand all the other properties that it has and how they are much more better than the properties of other forms of money that exist today. Censorship resistant. Fiat low. If banks or governments want to go ahead and keep you out of accessing your money, they can very easily do it. they want to demonetize money, like what happened in India, they can very easily do it. So fiat can very easily be censored. Gold, moderate. It's if you have gold, it's not possible to censor it, but raids can happen. I'll get that actually later. Raids can happen, so it can be seized. Bitcoin is high. The whole thesis behind Bitcoin was that it should be censorship resistant, and till now there have been so many bans that banks and governments have tried to do, but they haven't been able to censor it. Very interesting example. So when the hyperinflation in Venezuela happened, like people lost their entire life's wealth in a matter of weeks, few months and stuff. People were broke. People wanted to leave the country. People that had their value stored in gold, they still had the purchasing power. So they got their visas done, they bought tickets and stuff, and they took their gold with them. They were trying to get out of the country, and since you have gold, it's easily scannable. They got scanned, and either they weren't let to go through or their gold was seized. And then there were some people who were talking on Reddit. They basically stated that they had Bitcoin, and same thing, like Bitcoin kept its purchasing power and stuff. They were able to figure out their visas. They were able to get their tickets, get on a plane, get out of Venezuela and start a new life. That is how much powerful censorship resistance for money is. No one has the right to actually be able to censor the value that you have earned with time and with a lot of effort. So unforgeable costliness, that basically is just a convoluted way of saying how much costly is it to forge more of it. That completely correlates with scarcity. So it's the same thing happens over here. It's low. High for gold because you can't just create more gold just like that, and samely high for Bitcoin and stuff. Openly programmable. So this is a new theme that has come on money, which never even existed before. No one even thought of what programmable money even means. Now fiat is low because you can use fiat, you can use payment gateways and stuff, but you can't really program it in a much better way. You could say it's maybe more low to moderate or something. Just getting access to those payment gateways is a big hassle. You need a bank account and stuff. So fiat is not that openly programmable. Gold gets ultra low in this. There's no concept of programmability. Bitcoin gets a high, and if you look at the crypto ecosystem, it actually gets an ultra high. So very easily programmable and stuff, very open. So many things being built just because of this property. And that's how the new financial infrastructures are being built. And then last but not the least is decentralized. Is fiat decentralized? No, it's very centralized. Gold moderate, like yes, a lot of institutions, big players have pile loads of gold. Little bit is distributed among retail people, and Bitcoin is much highly decentralized. So I mean, if you look at this, if you take out Bitcoin from the equation, it was only gold and fiat which have existed through a long time. As we have come to the modern age, if you combine all of these properties into three major properties of money, that's a unit of account, medium of exchange, and store of value. And then these are the sub properties and stuff. Now, gold wasn't a good medium of exchange in modern times, which is why fiat became that medium of exchange. And both are fine with as a unit of account. Gold being a little bit lesser, just difficult in divisibility and stuff. But gold has trumped fiat in as a store of value. If things go wrong in the economy, people hedge into gold, which is why gold has kept its purchasing power since millennia. So if you look at the properties of gold, look at the properties of fiat, you can understand why gold works like that, right? Why it is able to store its value, and that is so much related to scarcity and stuff and some other properties. So it's not a good medium of exchange, which is why fiat is just used as a medium of exchange, but it's not used as a store of value. Gold is. When Bitcoin comes into the equation, it changes the game because it trumps almost every alternative out there in most of the properties of money. The only thing that it is low at is established history, and as time goes by, that thing will keep on increasing, and people will start understanding the other properties and just those properties playing out as good properties for money will basically go ahead and change the game of how it proves its value as good money versus gold and fiat. Cool. Any questions till now? No questions? All set?
Will you send this across? I understood some of it, but then I think I need to read through. The gold bit was very easy to understand.
Sure. I anyways will also share the presentation and stuff, so you can always go through it. Hopefully my video recording works. I feel like it's not gonna, otherwise Taha has the video. Cool. Any other questions? Cool. Let's proceed forward. So now no discussion about Bitcoin can go without talking about its price and its bubbles and stuff. Can anyone tell me how many bubbles Bitcoin has been through? Anyone? Chetan says 4. That says we're counting bubbles now. Hey, bubbles happen in markets. That's just the way markets work. There's no bad thing about bubbles.
Yeah, but stock market doesn't count it.
Yeah, that's because fiat is printed and then given to all the higher ups so that it doesn't crash. See, the scarcity.
My answer is 42.
42. Oh my god.
No, you didn't get the reference.
I actually didn't. I'm bad at these things.
Historical Guide to Galaxy.
Oh yeah, sorry. Damn. No man, not so related to that. Cool. 4 is in a way also right answer. Some say 3, some say 4. I say 3. We'll get to know how. I'm gonna decrease the volume. So you might not be able to see everything properly, but I'll keep on giving you some clues. This is where the Genesis block happened, and in between this is the space where, well, there was no trading. It was all computer scientists and cypherpunks actually coding and figuring out things and stuff. The first historical known trading happened over here in 2010, and then this is the first bubble that Bitcoin went through. It went from almost zero value to $32 and then crashed $2. This is the time when a lot of people started forking Bitcoin and changing params and copying the source code, creating new networks, and that whole ecosystem just started blasting. And then, by the way, this is, if you can't see, this is somewhere in 2011. And then with time, the halving happened. Increase the volume. The halving happened, first halving happened in 2012, end of 12, and then all those forks kept on happening, a lot of new things kept on being built, and then a supply shock happened because of the halved block rewards. And then the second bubble happened, whereby from there Bitcoin went to $280 and then crashed to $50. But then things kept on going on and stuff, and then another bubble happened, and it went to $1,200 and then will in time crash to $150. Now the interesting thing to note is that this is why people, some say 3, some say 4. I consider these as part of the same bubble, so I say 3. This is the point where the biggest exchange in beginning 2014 got hacked. Same funda, not your keys, not your Bitcoin, and almost $800 million worth of Bitcoin was stolen. Which is why don't keep your stuff on exchanges, get them out. Very interestingly, so now this Bitcoin is about to crash to 150. This is 2015 now, and somewhere along this time Ethereum was launched. Ethereum basically changed the whole game because it brought decentralized logic execution, basically logic execution in a decentralized way, which enabled a lot of the other applications, and ICOs were one of those applications. So with time, as people started understanding of how you can code that in a decentralized way, people started doing those ICO things, and some activity started happening. DAOs started happening. Some concept of DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, started happening. And then the second halving happened, which happened in 2016. A very interesting thing to note that when the halving happens, some miners will get unprofitable, so they switch off mining, so the hash rate decreases, which is why after the halving the price dropped. But the whole ICOs thing kept on happening, and that whole theme started playing out. And with time, the halving also again started creating that supply shock on a macro level, and this created the third or the fourth bubble, which we basically, almost everyone just knows only about that bubble. And since they can't see this previous price action, they think only one bubble has happened, but Bitcoin has gone through several bubbles. So Bitcoin then skyrocketed yet again, and went to $20,000, and then subsequently it's gonna crash to $3,000. This is the point where the India ban happened. Well, not the government ban, but RBI banned banking services to work with virtual virtual currency dealing entities and stuff. So then again, yes, it's consolidating and stuff, and then again now it's gonna crash to 3,000. That's pretty much gonna happen because there was a hash war that happened between Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV basically splitting from Bitcoin Cash, and then them doing a hash war to gain majority hash rate, and BTC.com pulled hash rate from Bitcoin, so has hash rate dropped down, price dropped down, things work in tandem. But Bitcoin became too oversold, and so it again did what it does, went to 14,000 last year, and then has been just consolidating, playing out the way it does. So now the third halving is approaching, which has, by the way, already happened. And now basically this is till where the price action is. It's only till April, but this point is the point where the markets tumbled all across the globe because of the pandemic. And again, Bitcoin is also a market, it also tumbled. The halving was also approaching, so miners wanted to take in profits and stuff. Bitcoin again also dipped, went to 3,000, and then since then has been constantly increasing and then the halving happened and is currently somewhere over here. So now the third halving has happened. And if you just look at the price chart, this is what people typically look at. So they see one bubble, but you can't really see the other bubbles over here. A little bit of this, but that doesn't look like a bubble. And these orange lines basically tell when the halving happened. If you now, for all of these things, whenever you have to look at this, you look at the log scale. So if you look at the log scale, the first bubble happened, the halving happened, supply shock happened. A lot of the theme over here pretty much was forks happening, Bitcoin forks happening. Second bubble happened, crashed. Then this theme was basically ICOs happening. Second halving happened, supply shock happened, third bubble happened, crashed, and now the third halving has happened. So now time will tell how it actually proceeds, but you get a sense of what are the fundamentals which are actually acting with the price action. And there are a lot of other things which also, hash rate is a very big thing. Remember Satoshi's quote, the price sort of follows the hash rate or the mining cost. Like mining cost basically follows the hash rate, because more hash rate, more difficult it is, to mine. Oh, by the way, last time when I mentioned the cost of mining one block is like currently around $12,000 and 10 to 12, and Bitcoin is around 9.2 and stuff. I was actually wrong. The cost of mining one Bitcoin is that, which is why that marries with the cost of Bitcoin. The cost of mining one block currently is actually around $75,000. So yeah, that I wanted to correct myself. Now, there is something known as the stock to flow model. The stock to flow model is basically a model which is used for commodities like gold and silver and stuff. It basically is the current circulating supply divided by, what are you saying? Okay, the current circulating supply divided by the new inflow. This model has with time proved to be working for price modeling for commodities. Bitcoin is also like a commodity. It's considered as a commodity by US CFTC and by a lot of other agencies and stuff because of good enough reasons. So if you plot the stock to flow for Bitcoin, now Bitcoin's new supply issuance keeps on decreasing and stuff. So this maroon line is what you get, and this line keeps on and this is on log scale, by the way, and this keeps on just going like this. And within the low established history of Bitcoin, if you plot the price on log scale with the stock to flow model on the log scale, the price has been following the stock to flow model. And the stock to flow model basically states that after the third halving, the stock to flow is going to increase, again supply shocks, and it states that as per the stock to flow, Bitcoin should achieve $100,000 price somewhere between 2021 to 2024. It also states that it's going to achieve a price of $1 million somewhere between 2025 to 2028. It also states going to achieve a price somewhere between $10 million somewhere between 2029 to 2033, and that keeps on going on. It might feel weird for much longer ranges. I have no clue how things are going to work out, and basically there's a saying in markets that markets don't repeat, they rhyme. But yeah, till now, Bitcoin is following its stock to flow model, and till now, all commodities have been following their stock to flow models. There is another interesting chart which is called Bitcoin's power law corridor. So if you go ahead and plot the price action on a log scale, with the time scale also being on log, actually being on log to the base 2, typically this is log to the base 10, it's log to the base 2 because correlating to the halving, it creates a corridor in which Bitcoin's price action has been moving since the past 11 and a half years, even though it has gone through 3 major bubbles, like minus 90% crashes. And its price action has been following this corridor. It's basically, you can see that half of the time it spends in the green corridor, which is its bear market consolidation phase, and half of its time it spends in the red corridor, which is its bull market phase. So this is basically till last year's data, and then basically it went like this somewhere, and then the March market crashes happened, and Bitcoin also did the nice dip, and it dipped very nicely because like there were next level future liquidations that were happening. It dipped, touched the bottom, went back up, then touched the top part, and is somewhere hovering on the top upper side of the green after the third halving, right, as of now. So as per this model, again, it has been falling. Again, past performance doesn't indicate future results. But as per this model states that Bitcoin is not going to achieve $100,000 before 2020, before mid of 2021. But it's not going to be less than $100,000 after 2028. And same correlation applies to million thing, and things go on. So only time will tell how this plays out. But we have some very interesting metrics which are telling us some very weird and interesting things. Correlate that to the properties of Bitcoin, and that should make things more clear to you. Cool. Let's look. So the Human Rights Foundation basically released a video of why Bitcoin matters for human rights last week. Let's watch that video.
Why Bitcoin matters for human rights in 2 minutes. Today, cash is disappearing. Whether it's in the United Kingdom or the United States or Sweden or South Korea, a smaller and smaller amount of daily transactions with cash. We have to think.
Whomsoever is not on mute, please put yourself on mute. Yes. Sorry, I'm gonna go back.
Smaller amount of our daily transactions are done with cash. We have to think about the implications of a cashless society where all money is digitally centralized. We have to think about what happens when we lose the financial privacy afforded to us by paper money. We have to think about the new powers that states and corporations gain as we trade our privacy and freedom for comfort and convenience, because what you buy and sell says more about you than your words. Consider, when you make a transaction with a paper bill, the merchant doesn't know your name, your email address, your phone number, or really anything about you. By contrast, when you make a transaction with a phone or a wearable or a swipe or one day a chip, you reveal an enormous amount of information about yourself, which leads to control by corporations and governments, and censorship and surveillance, and gradually social engineering. This is why Bitcoin is so revolutionary, because it lays the groundwork for a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, where unlike today's legacy arrangement, where there's banks and software companies and payment processors in the middle of every single digital transaction that happens, instead, nobody's in the middle of you and the person you are paying. The payment processing is done instead by a global competition. And this is why in a world and in a future where we will have state money, we will have corporate money, Bitcoin is more like the people's money. It is a way out. It is an alternative. Now, less than 1% of us have used Bitcoin, perhaps 50 or 60 million out of the 7.5 billion on this earth. But if we keep growing this, and if Bitcoin thrives, humans will have a money that can't be censored by authorities, that can't be devalued by governments, that can't be monopolized by corporations, that can't be easily mass surveilled, that can't be stopped by borders, and that can be accessed by anyone. And that's why Bitcoin matters for human rights.
So it was a pleasant surprise that this video came out by the Human Rights Foundation. All right. So, any questions till now, by the way? No. Cool.
Yeah. So I have a question, Vikram.
Go ahead.
So who exactly guarantees the value of Bitcoin? Like how exactly is that guaranteed? Like I'm not able to explain my question. I think for example, this fiat money, it was demonetized by the government, right? So how do we know that something like that can't happen to Bitcoin? So of course, no government is overseeing it and nothing, but who is giving us the guarantee that this much Bitcoin has this much value?
So let's bifurcate that into two questions. First is, who guarantees this Bitcoin has this much value? No one. The markets decide the value. And markets, the free markets actually decide the value. Till now, whatever Bitcoin's price action has been, it's been decided by the free markets. And the markets have decided that yes, right as of now, it's trading at 9.2, and markets is nothing but people coming and buying and selling. That is what my market is. That is what true price discovery for anything and everything in the world is. That's also how basically markets for anything else works. But then again, those markets are somehow controlled by pumping in more money, or having regulations, or having restrictions that only you guys can trade and stuff. But that's not true for crypto and not true for Bitcoin, because of the uncensorability and just the way it works and stuff. So it's a free market, and the markets decide what the value is, and that value just gets decided with respect to how the dynamics are working, and those dynamics are basically a culmination of so many things happening: how mining is happening, where mining is happening, who is profitable, who is not, who wants to sell, who wants to keep. Some people will be trading with that, some people will be doing something else, some people will be getting paid because they're doing freelance work using that. So the markets decide the price, and the markets have decided all the price action till now. And the second is, who guarantees that it just won't get won't get printed? The code guarantees that. The code guarantees what is the supply issuance, and the miners guarantee that whatever they are mining, right? And the consensus guarantees that everything remains in consensus. So until and unless the majority consensus doesn't come out that we want to change the code for Bitcoin, which basically, and change the supply issuance won't change. That's how it will be, no matter what any government wants to do or any bank wants to do. The supply issuance won't change. Now, the interesting part is that if it's much difficult to go ahead and change things right as of now than it was to change things beforehand, because the hash rate was very less. The hash rate has increased a lot right as of now. So, and with time, people will understand what works, what doesn't work, what creates value for Bitcoin. And a lot of people have understood the fact that the disinflationary monetary policy of Bitcoin is a very important part in its store of value proposition, in how it actually keeps its value and doesn't devalue itself like just printing like nothing does. Which is why, to change that aspect, it was much easier to do that beforehand, and even then it didn't happen. So for that, so the probability of that happening is extremely low. But well, that's how democratic processes work. So like this is like a democratic process. If more than 50% of the hash rate decides that we are gonna do something, they can do that. The thing is that even 50% or 60-40 or 70-30 or 80-20 doesn't cut out, because if everyone is not in consensus, people have seen what happens. So people don't go ahead and do upgrades which are not in full consensus of the majority. If some less contentious consensus things happen, there's a chance of a chain split happening, and then hash wars can start happening. And that, you like, the most critical, the most sort of escalated thing like that sort of happened in the previous mania phase, whereby there was an upgrade called the Segwit 2x upgrade, which was in contention. Like the developers were against it, and more than 50%, or like 60-40 or 70-30 of the mining hash power actually said that we want to do it. That was increasing the block size. But developers were against it. They were like, that's probably wrong. It'll create more DDoS attacks that will be backward compatible, so it'll have replay attacks between the two chains and stuff. But the miner said, no, we want that, because it would have become more profitable for the miners, and it would have created a little bit more centralization. Even that, in which miners actually were saying, more miners had more miners were signaling for going for that upgrade did not happen, because the developers finally said we're not going to do this. Even the developers which were in the miners community, they said they were not going to do this because it's contentious, it's problematic, we're not going to do it. So that is where things have progressed. So until unless most of the people don't go ahead and say that we're going to do it, it's not going to happen. So that is how it can, like, you are guaranteed in a way that just supply just like that won't come up. But it's like a very beautiful play of democracy, like majority democracy.
Right, yeah, got it.
Cool. So now, it's not like Bitcoin is done and, like, you know, there aren't new things coming up over there. There are a lot of actual developments happening in Bitcoin. Although the developments happen slowly and with proper processes and stuff. So these three are basically some new and upcoming upgrades which are planned for end of 2020 or early 2021, and almost in consensus by everyone. These are the big proposal numbers for these. So you have Schnorr signatures, which basically enables multi-signature transactions. Multiple signature transaction means multiple people, only when multiple people go ahead and sign the transaction will that transaction go through. It enables it in a very powerful way. Then you have Taproot, which basically includes the concept of masts, which is Merkleized abstract syntax trees. It is basically creates, it also adds better privacy for masts using Schnorr signatures, so it builds over Schnorr. And basically this includes conditional transactions. There is TapScript, which is basically an enhancement to Bitcoin script and easier opcode upgrades. And all of these things, they're very powerful, and they are basically gonna come out by end of 2020 and 2021. Then there are other things which are not completely in consensus, so they'll keep on having discussions. Only when consensus happens, then like these things will be properly implemented, and right now they're in the draft phase and stuff. So great consensus cleanup basically removes some edge case vulnerabilities which have been known for some time but are considered unexploitable. No input class and op check template verify. This is a op code. It's something related to transaction signing. You have drive chains, which is basically side chains for Bitcoin. Yeah, there are almost 400 core developers contributing to Bitcoin development currently. So yeah, it's like a lot of developers out there which are working on this. Some are working full time, some are working on the side. Right. So now let's have a glimpse of the crypto ecosystem. This is in no means the full things, like just touching the surface. So you have some smart contract platforms which Ethereum pioneered, and then a lot of other things also came out. Some things aren't even released, but like you could very well just ignore all of these, and this is the most important thing in the smart contract thingy networks. You have privacy coins. So just like as we stated, like we have a lot of public all the chains are public and stuff, but what if you need true privacy? What if like true privacy, no one can see anything? That is where Monero, Zcash, Grin come in. This is the one which has the most history. Then comes Zcash. This is a new kid in town. Monero uses ring signatures. This uses zero knowledge proofs. Grin uses Mimblewimble. So like these methodologies actually work on a hashing level, whereby like from a hash perspective you can verify what went where and guarantee that, but looking at the chain and looking at the hashes, you can't really tell how much value went where and from where it went to whom it went. Which is why it's called zero knowledge proofs. It's a very new upcoming thing. It's being researched a lot. Yeah, if you go into the blockchain explorers of these, you cannot figure out what went where and how much. Some of the research from Zcash is now being incorporated into Ethereum. In a way whereby like something called ZK rollups, which is gonna be used for actually making Ethereum scale more, increasing its scalability. And then some more research is being done so that the privacy aspects are also included into Ethereum in time. Blockchain came out as the first distributed ledger technology. But it's not the last. Then that gave rise to more concepts of newer distributed ledger technologies. You have Tangle in IOTA, you have Hashgraph in Hedera, you have Block Lattice in Nano. Block Lattice is like a blockchain of blockchains. So if blockchain is like a linked list, these are like directed acyclic graphs. And then you have decentralized finance. You have Compound, which is basically decentralized markets for lending and borrowing with interest rates and collaterals and stuff. You have MakerDAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization, and that created a concept of having a coin which is programmatically pegged to USD. So the value is programmatically pegged via collaterals and stuff. So that basically created DAI, which is programmatically pegged to USD and stuff. You have Uniswap, which basically so today if there are, so all the ICOs happened on Ethereum. Because Ethereum enabled it. So so you can have a lot of different tokens on Ethereum itself. Most of the tokens out there which don't live in their own network live on Ethereum. So now if I need to get some token because of whatever reason, previously I had to send Ethereum to that transaction to an exchange, convert it over there, and then withdraw it out. These days we don't need to go to exchanges. You can just use Uniswap, and it does a decentralized swap using decentralized liquidity pools. Ren is basically trying to bring Bitcoin to Ethereum. So not limited to Bitcoin, but that can be extended to any other chains. Synthetics is bringing synthetic assets pegged to real world assets. You have stable coins which are basically pegged to, stable currencies and stuff, fiat currencies and stuff. So like Tether, USDC, BUSD, all of these are pegged, but these are pegged via keeping reserves with them. And like this is regulated, so you know that the reserves are there. This and this is not regulated, so you don't even know whether reserves are there or not. DAI and reserve are actually pegged programmatically via smart contracts. So again, Ethereum comes there. And DAI basically started that whole concept of how you can actually do that via collateralization and stuff. Very interesting to look into. Then you have miscellaneous tokens like Binance token. You have Chainlink, which is decentralized oracles. You have BAT, which is basic attention token. So BAT is interesting. Like there's a browser called Brave, which is a fork of Chromium. It basically removes all analytic scripts and or advertisement stuff, and basically like you have the power to say yes, no to that, and basically creates a new concept of advertisement whereby there are advertisers, there are publishers, and there are consumers. So advertisers will pay for advertisements, and publishers publish those advertisements, consumers see their advertisements, but whatever advertisers pay, that gets paid both to publishers and consumers. So you as a consumer of advertisements get paid to actually see advertisements. So it's a very interesting thing. I've been using Brave since last year. Like I use that for all my non-work things. So not like all the time, so but sometimes, and within a year I've actually earned like $30 worth of that. So yeah, that's interesting. Engine is basically a marketplace for non-fungible tokens, like which is used for pretty much going to be used for in games, like in-game items, skins, swords, etc., etc. So they're non-fungible. One sword is not the same as the other sword, hence like no fungibility. So this basically has had integration with Unity engine. And then just recently, I guess, had integration with Minecraft. And then you have iExec, which is basically, you be able to give out your spare compute resources so that others can, so that other computations can run on that. So I can just, if my desktop is idle, I just give my compute resources and I get earned for whatever processing power is used for any arbitrary computations and stuff. The interesting thing to note is that all of this, most of this, except for Binance and BUSD, is running on Ethereum. Which is why, if there is one thing that you need to, let's say you have a lot of knowledge about Bitcoin, now you need to understand the next thing. What is the next thing that you should read about? That's Ethereum. And Ethereum is the brainchild of Vitalik Buterin. He basically launched it in 2015 when he was just 21 years old. This guy is a genius. Listen to him talk, the way he talks, the things he speaks. He's like a humanoid. No disrespect, I really respect this guy. He came into the blockchain space in 2010. That means he was just like 16 years old at that time. Proposed the idea of Ethereum in 2013 and launched it in 2015. What Bitcoin did to value, Ethereum does to logic and code. So Ethereum enables you to create smart contracts and execute logic in a decentralized manner. Some properties would be proof of work. They created their own hashing mechanism, which is a dangerous thing, but they did. This hashing mechanism improves over SHA-256 in a way that it is memory hard, so it's very difficult to create ASICs. So they wanted to be ASIC resistant. Then created a Ethereum virtual machine, which basically is used to process the whole code and stuff. Created a new language for it, which is Solidity. Now there are more like Viper and stuff. There's a 10 to 20 second block time, and has web3.js, which is used for which is the SDK, web API SDK for communicating with the blockchain and stuff. So now the interesting thing is that most ICOs were conducted on Ethereum, and this has given rise to the concept of decentralized applications. All of these things are decentralized applications. Now there are many upgrades in the roadmap, all of which are community driven. This is what Vitalik basically proposed as his personal roadmap, which is for the next 5 to 8 years, and it basically involves a lot of things which you don't need to go into. But then again, that's like a direction for the community to go into, and it is transitioning into proof of stake phase 0, which is going to be starting from 2020 to 2021. More than 10,000 developers are working on the core and the dApp ecosystem right as of now, and the on-chain activity has been constantly increasing. So now, if like there have been different themes, you have had Forks as a theme for the first bubble, ICO as a theme for the second bubble. If there is one theme that I am very bullish about, it is decentralized finance. And like this is where decentralized finance is coming into picture. When this whole thing started, which was after the bubble burst, this whole thing has been going on since in the whole bear market. And it has gone from almost like a few single-digit $1 million being locked in via collaterals or decentralized liquidity pools to almost $1.62 billion. It's actually $1.7 billion right as of now. And if you look at this is where the market crash happened in March. It also took a dip, and now it has just blasted through. And like this thing has happened in the last month. So a lot of interesting things and bullish activities are happening over here. So if you have to basically look into some theme, this is the theme to look into. Another thing is that like these are new things over smart contracts, so there will be bugs, there will be exploits and stuff. So things need to be battle tested, so things are more risky. So if you're getting into something, keep those risk reward ratios into perspective and stuff. Any new thing is risky, but yes, I have like, even if you see this has been the whole consolidation bear market, and the thing has been just rising like anything. And yeah, like I am personally very bullish about this. Cool. So any questions till now? Any people remaining? Any questions? Raja, Joy?
No, good. Ethereum समझ में नहीं आया मुझे सचमुच.
Good. Just think of it that just like Bitcoin, you can just transfer value in a decentralized manner, right? Ethereum can execute code in a decentralized manner. So you can write code and deploy it as a smart contract on an address, and then you can do a transaction with that code. So you can actually build an exchange in a decentralized manner using that code, which basically takes away all the problems of centralized exchanges, like them being hacked and stuff. and you can do transactions directly through your wallet. So your wallet mein you can send a transaction to a smart contract which says, if you send me this much, you are basically saying the inputs are, I want to convert this to this. वहाँ पे अंदर कोड लिखा होगा, like there'll be some code inside that code will get executed, there'll be some things will happen, it'll do an output. So basically logic is being executed in a decentralized manner. So now you can build applications in a decentralized manner.
Okay.
Did I buy Ethereum? Oh, Joy, did you buy Ethereum?
मैं बोल रहा था क्योंकि I was gonna drop off, but that's when you started talking about Ethereum. So that's why I said, okay, I have to listen to this because I bought Ethereum, right?
Ethereum is a very
Chetan is asking you something.
Chetan is asking, you bought Ethereum, Joy?
Ethereum.
So
I did.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. By the way, Joy, there's something known as Dior, #Dior, which basically means do your own research. So you went ahead and bought Ethereum, but you didn't do any research of what it actually is.
Nothing.
That's a way of getting wrecked in crypto markets. So you should not. I mean, I can personally vouch for anyone new that Bitcoin, Ethereum is fine. Anything above that, you need to do your own research. But if you are getting into anything in crypto, buying any asset, doing anything, you need to do your own research, because otherwise you can get into scammy stuff and you can get into the wrong stuff and do wrong things and then lose your value. So if you're getting into anything, do your own research. If you haven't done that and you've gotten into something, you're doing it in the wrong way.
Right.
Cool. So for whomsoever is present, let's create thy wallets. We've discussed about why wallets are very important. We've discussed about why you need to have your assets in your own keys. People shy away from creating wallets because they think it's going to be a very cumbersome process, but it's not. It's a very, very easy process. It takes maximum 10 minutes. That's more simpler than creating a bank account. Much more simpler. So let's create thy wallets. I would like you guys to go ahead and download any one of these. It's available in Play Store, it's available in App Store. I personally,
laptop pe?
Mobile pe. And you can, I use this. You can choose to use this. Also, my tutorial is using this, but it's nothing complicated at all. You can just download this and then we'll get forward. Let the first person say that they have downloaded, and then I will proceed forward. Go ahead and download this. Any of these, I personally use this.
Okay, imToken is downloaded.
Cool. Ekansh also done. Any other person done? One more done and I'll proceed forward. Cool. Pretty simple. You can browse through the banners and read what it has to offer, and then just click on create identity. Go ahead and create your identity, whatever name, password. Again, this thing has nothing to do with the blockchain. This is just you creating a identity on your wallet, which will basically be used to protect your wallet, so that any transaction going out, you have to enter the password, so that just no one can not use that. It's not used for logging in or logging out. It is just used for whenever you're gonna create a transaction which is moving value out of your address, it's gonna ask you for your password. And then over here, whatever the defaults are, you can keep them. No need to add more. You just need to be concerned about Ethereum and Bitcoin, which is already selected. imToken is a multi-wallet chain, multi-chain wallet. So it has multiple support for multiple chains. And this is very important. Go ahead and click backup now. You need to back up your mnemonic, which is the 12 seed phrase, 12 word seed. Can someone say they have clicked on this?
Click create identity, password, email ID डालना है क्या?
नहीं. वो do whatever you want. Again, this is not related to anything online. This is just creating an account in your wallet itself, like in your phone itself for that software, so that whenever you're doing a transaction going out of that address, it'll ask your password, so that just no one can just take your phone and take out a transaction.
So identity name, password, identity name kuch bhi.
Anything. That's just for your identification. It has nothing to do with any online thing.
So I can put Joy.
Yeah. Put whatever password you want. Tomorrow, when you are transferring funds out of this or out of your address, it will ask you for your password.
Okay. Okay, so created and confirm. Backup tips, backup now. Do not take screenshot, okay?
Right? So now it is very important not to take a screenshot of the mnemonic phrase, because screenshots get synced to the cloud, then the cloud servers have the seed, and hence it's insecure. You need to secure your seed properly. So just take a notebook and write down these words. The order matters.
Really?
Just write down these words in a notebook on a paper. Tomorrow, take out that paper and keep it in a safe place whereby no one can access it apart from you. And also tell your family members about it. When you've noted this down and you say confirm backup, who is not on mute? Yeah. You say confirm backup, it's gonna. Joy, you're unmuted. Yeah. You're gonna it's gonna ask you to verify your seed, so that to know that you have noted it down properly. It's gonna ask you to verify it in the proper order. Once you verified that, you're all done. You can take the small tutorial that comes up. You can take a asset security self-assessment quiz. It's always good to see whether you have all the right knowledge, and you are done. You can then click over here to this is your address. You click over here and it's going to show you your address and your barcode. You can basically then transfer out whatever assets you have on your exchange to this address, and then that you will see those things come up here. So once people have done this step, let me know.
Okay, I've entered the correct order of mnemonic phase, and now it says welcome to imToken. Start now.
You can take the tutorial, just 3-4 things that will tell
Click
you.
here to show wallet list. Okay, tutorial. Oh, right, that's the tutorial. Okay, cool. Get started. Okay, I think wallets created Ethereum 0.
Right, you can take the quiz afterwards when you have the spare time.
Asset security self-assessment. Right, okay.
And you can click this to actually go ahead and get your barcode that can be scanned, which can be used to send, which you can use to receive assets, and that's you can use this to withdraw assets from the exchange to your wallet, or to your address, to be more precise. Cool, done. Joy is done, Chetan is done. Anyone else?
The barcode कहाँ से आया? Oh, right, man.
Barcode, यहाँ पे, if you click this, you will get this. This is your address for Ethereum. This is the barcode representation of that. If you go over here in the menu bar, you can also access your Bitcoin wallet, and that will have a different address. So securing this mnemonic phrase, which is the 12 word seed, is very, very, very important. Right? I hope everyone has secured that properly. Done? You can't see my cursor?
Cannot. अभी तक barcode नहीं आया मेरा.
Hey, just click on this, na?
Cursor किधर है?
You can't see my cursor?
नहीं.
Okay. Now?
Wait, I think maybe it's my phone.
Can you see my cursor?
Oh yeah, now I can see. Okay.
This. Click on this.
Okay.
Okay. Got your barcode?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you can receive stuff. If you show me your barcode, I can send you some Ethereum right now by scanning it. Cool. So the reason we did this exercise is because we are now gonna play a quiz. And for whomsoever answers right, I will be giving you out some crypto. Some rules. You can ask any questions at any time. You have the internet to search things and figure out answers. You can ask questions verbally. I'll answer them. Answers need to only and only be written in chat. So you need to write the answers down. If you verbally speak them, I'm not responsible for other people writing them down and you losing the opportunity. Cool. Is everyone ready? Need a yes from everyone. And all right. Cool. So the first question for $5 worth of Bitcoin, which equates to 0.00055 BTC, is what is the percentage of Bitcoin left to be mined right after the fourth halving happens? There are no options, you have to evaluate. Joy,
sorry, my phone died. What?
Okay, so the quiz.
Okay, got it.
This is the question. What will be the percentage of Bitcoins left to be mined right after the fourth halving happens? Worth $5 worth of Bitcoin, which currently at the current prices is 0.00055 BTC. 66.25. Dilshad, 6.25% is the right answer.
Phone. Hey Google, set up my device.
Yeah, Pranjal, you're being late to the game.
And I was slightly listening.
Dilshad is correct. Dilshad has won this. It is 6.25% will be left.
Hey, my
after the
phone
fourth
died. Yeah,
halving.
come on. Okay, never mind.
You have more opportunities. So which equates to 1.31 million BTC left. Good one, Dilshad. So there's a very interesting thing that I wanted to actually share. This is the genius of Satoshi. Taha Raffle missed the dot. Yeah, but Dilshad wrote it beforehand, so anyways, he would have won. So the way he has figured out the mechanics or the numbers behind all the whole thing is that before the first halving, the block reward was 50 bitcoins, and so after the first halving, 50% bitcoins are actually left to be mined. And before the second halving, it's like 25 bitcoins is the block reward, and after the second halving, 25% is left to be mined. And same goes for this, and same goes for this. So after the fourth halving, before the fourth halving, the block reward was 6.25. After the fourth halving, the percentage left to be mined is 6.25%. And then that's the same relation that will keep on happening. So that's a very interesting relationship. Taha can't navigate. Taha, go ahead and navigate, man. Like, don't worry. It'll navigate to your search. Don't worry. Katul? All right. Cool. So the next question for $5 worth of Ethereum is this. Sometime back, someone hacked a smart contract on Ethereum. As a result, they were able to lock away XETH that both the hacker and the developers of the smart contract could not access. This led to a very contentious decision by the Ethereum community. As a result, a new chain Y was born. Identify X and Y. You will get partial rewards for X and Y. Y is equal to Ethereum Classic. Raja, that is the correct answer. Identify X. Raja knows this because I've talked with him about 51%. No, that's not the right answer. $1,000, no, that's not the right answer. $10,000, no, that's not the right answer. Y is anyways taken, so you only have to tell X. 1 million, not the right answer. $10 million, not the right answer. 1.1 million, not the right answer. It's, by the way, it's not in dollars. I'm asking in ETH. XETH. Cannot is not the right answer.
That's the right answer for me. This is too much. Cannot remember.
Search the internet. You have the internet.
Oh, right. Is it allowed to? Okay.
I just told you can search the internet. You have the internet anyways, other people can do it. So
no, I don't know. You should not, right? I don't know. Ethically, I was thinking.
You have to.
Open book exam pehle bolna tha na.
I told that. Maybe you dropped off at that time. Okay, you can search the internet. You can do whatever you want.
Like, are these questions made by you?
Yes.
So you know that no one will be able to like cheat.
मतलब थोड़ा सोच के किया है that it's like even searching the internet you have to spend some time to do it. Percentage the X is in ETH, so there's no percentage. We're talking how many Ethereum they were able to lock.
वही देख रहा हूँ
2.2 million. Not accurate. How did you get this number, exact number?
Raja, stop discussing.
Oh, that's not even 2.2 million. That's just 220,000.
No, so I actually. Okay. So the prices fluctuate. So I just read somewhere that $50 million worth of Ether was hacked.
Was different.
Yeah. Why? So the prices fluctuated, right?
34,000. No. I thought it will be easy after Ethereum Classic is sold. I can't tell that. I can't tell that. You can figure it out if you search the internet. You've already gotten one clue. Raja has told the answer for why. That is your clue. $12 million Ether, that's not correct. $23 lakh. No. What is 23? 3.6 million ETH is the right answer. Raja takes X also. Cool. So it is Ethereum Classic and 3.6 million ETH. So it's very interesting what happened at this time. So there was a new thing, the first concept of a decentralized autonomous organization that was created over smart contracts. They were more into marketing and less into the technical aspects. So there was a bug in the smart contract, and someone was able to create another DAO using the same thing and transferred that value from there. Some more things happened, but ultimately that value got transferred over there, and neither the hacker nor the developers had access to that. So it was very interesting. Ethereum was very new at that time. All this 3.6 million ETH was actually 15% of the circulating supply of Ethereum at that point. So the community was like very they wanted to save some skin for Ethereum, which made sense. So at that time they decided that they will be in consensus and fork the chain and remove that transaction. And but the faction of the community basically said that we believe in immutability, we will not do this. So there was a consensus disagreement, and the immutable faction of the community said we're not going to do this. So the actual Ethereum chain forked at that point, and that previous chain which has that transaction lives on as Ethereum Classic, and the new chain without that transaction became the new Ethereum. That is actually Vitalik also sided with this decision. That is actually in hindsight, it's actually a good decision because Ethereum was new at that time. Now it has grown so much that if something happens, they don't really care. It's like you fucked up, so it's your problem. And there have been other exploits also happening, and nothing happens. But this happened at that point. Congrats, Raja. Cool. So, ready for the next question? Yes. Yes. Cool. Next question for $5 worth of Bitcoin is this. Identify the person in the photo and his Twitter handle. Partial rewards for partial answers. This is a tough one. I'll give some clues for if you are not able to figure it out. Someone is scanning.
This is major cheating.
Do whatever you want. You can't see the photo? Dilshad? You should be able to see the photo, no? It's a little blurry though. Okay. Yeah, the picture itself is blurry. No, I haven't blurred it. Okay, I'll give you a clue. I've taken the picture from his Twitter handle.
Taken the pic from?
His Twitter handle.
क्या तुम लोग अभी भी ट्विटर यूज करते हो?
Dude, Twitter is the in thing. I don't use any other social media other than Twitter.
How is Twitter the in thing? The in thing is TikTok. Well, okay.
Okay, it's not okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't say that.
Leave the in thing. It's a useful thing. It's a useful thing to broadcast your thoughts, A, and B, it's a very useful thing to figure out what's currently happening for the things that you're interested in. Like, if you need immediate news, Twitter is the place where you get that. Tim Draper is not the right answer, Dilshad. Raja Shekhar, half win. Oh my goodness. You cracked this pretty easily. That's the right answer. Cool. Image search. Interesting.
Google image search.
Was it you or was it Pranjal or Arpesh?
So I was trying Google Lens, dude, but Google Lens was not.
Yeah, I was also trying Google Lens. It was not able to show anything.
Okay, so this guy is Hal Finney. He is the first known person to actually have started working and running Bitcoin apart from Satoshi. He tweeted this in Jan 11 of 2009, running Bitcoin. He's a computer scientist who very well known because of Bitcoin and stuff. Some interesting facts about him. Some people say he is Satoshi. The first transaction that went from that happened person to person transaction that happened on Bitcoin was from Satoshi to Hal Finney. I don't personally think he is Satoshi. I think someone else is Satoshi. But yeah. Also very interesting thing to note that he has currently passed away a few years back, and he suffered from ALS after times, and unfortunately, it's very interesting that all the Bitcoin that he mined helped him pay for the whole exorbitant fees of his ALS treatment. So it's so nice to see that someone who was such an early contributor to Bitcoin helped them to actually lead a good life and be able to have do away with medical expenditures for all the exorbitant fees that comes up with the ALS treatment. So yeah, that's a very nice realization. NI does that. Cool. So Raja wins this. Awesome. All right. So the next question for $5 worth of Bitcoin, sorry, Ethereum, is this. If a smart contract can use a maximum of 1 million gas and you decide to pay a gas price of 50 GUE, what will be the maximum applicable transaction fee cost in Ethereum, in ETH? Not that much math happening. Think of how you can solve this. Think how you can leverage internet to solve this. It's not a math question anymore. $163th is the wrong answer. Dude, if you pay a 163th transaction fee, you're fucked. Doesn't even make sense. In the meantime, I'll tell you some things. Actually, a little afterward. Just that GUE is the unit of gas price in Ethereum. 36.97. No clue how you even came up with that. I don't see how 36.97 even correlates with these two numbers. 20, no. Ekansh 0.05 is the right answer. Cool, Ekansh has solved this. 0.05 is the right answer. Yes, all you need to do is search for Ethereum gas price calculator and you will get that. And you can just type in the values and you will be able to figure out what the answer is. So interesting thing to note is that every smart contract takes some CPU power. So if the smart contract has more complex code, it's going to take more CPU power, and hence it uses more gas. And gas price is decided by you of how much price you want to give for gas, and then with respect to that, your final transaction cost is decided. So GUE basically giga basically means 10 raised to power minus 9 ETH. So all you are basically doing is 1 million into 50 into 10 raised to power minus 9 and you get the answer. Cool. So Ekansh, very nice. I like it. Like, we have different people who are winning this. .05 is the right answer. $5 for the last questions. $5 worth of Bitcoin is this. In the very early days of Bitcoin, a bug was found which led to minting of X Bitcoins as a block reward, where X is greater than 21 million, so much greater than 21 million. Identify X, the block height number at which this occurred, and the bug identifier for that bug. You need to identify all three properly to win this. X was much greater than 21. So a lot of Bitcoins were suddenly mined. Suddenly came out. Because there was a bug in the code. was in very early days of Bitcoin. You need to tell all these three, otherwise you don't win and you're just giving clues to other people. I will not tell whether this is the right answer or the wrong answer. All three need to be told. Richard, you haven't told any bug identifier. Jeff Barrett doesn't seem like a bug identifier. Bug identifier will be a code given for that bug. Raja, you'll have to tell the full thing.
Like, do we need to give hash for identifier?
So Raja, everyone basically said partially. The only person who said the first, who gave a reply of all three on the chat is Chetan. 184 million is right. 74638 block is right. And CVE 20105139 is right. The first person who told all three, who wrote all three on chat, is Chetan. I will give this award to Chetan. Cool. So yes, this is the answer. Very interesting thing. So this happened in 2010, very, very early days. There was an integer overflow bug that happened, due to which 184 billion bitcoins just came into existence. Typically, you will have integer flow overflow problems or buffer overflow problems, coming up as zero-day vulnerabilities in operating systems and all of these things. Yeah, these things happen. But then again, the moment this came out, someone saw that, and they figured out the problem, and the bug was immediately patched. And then the whole community basically decided that we are gonna fork to the good chain. But obviously, every time there are people in the community who basically go and said that, you know what, I'm going to do the notorious thing. I'm going to mine the bad chain. So then, like, some people started mining the good chain, some people started mining the bad chain. This happened from block number 74638, and now two chains were being mined, and by the 50th, within 50 more blocks, the good chain became the chain with the highest hash power, with the longest chain. And then the bad chain, people said, okay, we are fine, we're coming back. Then they came back, and then the good chain became the longest chain, and that became mined. So it's very interesting that such exploits can happen in the early days. Even at that point when this happened, there were notorious actors, they wanted to mine the bad chain, but then the whole game theory thing comes into picture, and the longest chain wins, and typically the good chain wins, and the good chain won within the next 50 blocks, which is just 10 hours. Within 10 hours of that, within 10 hours, the thing was discovered, it was patched, it was consensus came out, people went to the good chain, hash war happened, the good chain won, and within 10 hours everything became fine again.
This means that more people were mining for the good chain, right? Like, which is why it became the longest chain.
You can say so, yes. Which makes sense. Like you will always have, again, the whole thing comes back to the same thing. Miners are disincentivized to be bad actors. They are the guardians of the chain. Even if they are bad actors, like typically game theory mechanics of the economic incentives somehow makes sure that the good chain becomes the longest chain. So this was Chetan. Congrats, Chetan. I'll just note it down. All right, so we're done with the quiz. I hope you guys enjoyed the quiz. By the way, all the vulnerabilities and exposures for Bitcoin are actually in this wiki, so you can go over there and see all the bugs that have happened. Everything is documented. The power of open source. Cool. So to end up with everything, the Bitcoin experiment. The Bitcoin started as an experiment 11.5 years ago. In some ways, it still is. It's peer-to-peer. It has removed all intermediaries, or it removes all intermediaries currently required for money handling. You don't require any third-party trusting third parties. So much optimization and overheads and auditing and regulations and everything. It's always running, has had lesser outages than any other payment network out there. That too, those outages were only in the early days. It's unhackable. NSA, hackers, other agencies have tried to hack it, but have never succeeded. It's uncensorable. Banks, governments have tried to censor it, but haven't succeeded. It's the most secure network out there with the highest hash rate. It's completely public. You can see everything that happens on it. Even the source code is open source. Has had the fairest distribution. It only distributes itself to people running it. It has rewarded and rewards more to early adopters. It's a store of value. It is a disinflationary asset. It's good money. It gives new meaning to what good money is, what good monetary policies should be, and what should be the philosophies behind them. It birthed crypto. The whole crypto industry was born due to Bitcoin. And it's the people's money. You control your own money and also help running it. It's for the people, by the people. And with that, I will end up with this meme. If you take the red pill and you deep dive into the cryptoverse, start understanding what is happening, what it means, as a consequence, start trying to validate it with what happens in the traditional financial infrastructure or the traditional infrastructures, and as a consequence, learn about the traditional infrastructures, and then try to understand what optimizations or betterments crypto brings to it. What are the new developments happening? What are the revolutionary financial governance and basically all trusting intermediary, removal of all trusting intermediary infrastructures are being built. You will fall down the rabbit hole, just like me and so many countless other people in the world. And B, you will understand what Morpheus is trying to say over here. With that, thank you for joining up this session. I will open the floor for questions, comments, feedback, and the winners showing the barcode so that I can send you your crypto.
So when and how did this fascination for crypto start for you?
when did the whole journey start for me?
Yep.
Okay, so I came to know about Bitcoin in 2012. When I came to know about it, I read about it superficially, didn't go too much deep dive too much into it, but I was pretty convinced that this thing might be a very huge thing going forward, very revolutionary thing, but didn't deep dive into it. So I was like, let me put some money into it. Let's, as a long-term investment, we'll see. But at that time, it was so new that it was just too difficult to get some Bitcoins. You had to transfer money to some exchanges outside and then buy them over there. And I was too lazy to do that. I never did that. And I really didn't understand how big a thing it could be. And I only got to understand that in 2017. And basically that's when I took the red pill and I fell down a rabbit hole. And I have been into crypto and reading about crypto ever since. But the interesting thing about crypto is that my whole knowledge for the financial infrastructures, I had zero knowledge about economies and financial infrastructures, have only come up because of crypto. Because reading crypto, so many new things, there are things that you need to validate. So you try to learn things of the traditional financial infrastructure and try to figure out why does this even make sense? So you try to validate against that. So you learn about that, and then you keep on falling into the rabbit hole. That's how my basically journey started, and I've basically been learning about crypto and the current infrastructures since then. I used in 2015 to buy something from Amsterdam. You used crypto to buy something in Amsterdam in 2015, Dilcha?
Yeah. So in the like
some smoke or something.
Yeah. Hello?
Some smokes or something.
Yeah.
Nice. That is amazing. I use cryptos to buy things. I have used cryptos to buy things in the recent times. But using it in 2015 to buy stuff is like crazy.
I didn't know it will like gradually increase so much. Yeah, that time my friend introduced me all this, so I was like going through all the data and crypto.
Sweet. Cool. What more? Any other questions? Guys, by the way, you don't need to only ask questions. Just please start showing your QR codes, please. You have your wallets created. Show me your QR codes. I am not on. I'm recording supposedly if it records. So I'm not on the multi-grid view. The moment you're showing your QR code, just tell out, and I'll send your cryptos to you.
I'm gonna show my QR code.
So Chetan, you were for Q5, right?
Yeah.
We can share the address also, right?
Yeah, you can share the address also, but I'll have to copy that to my phone. Better just show me the QR. I can scan it from my phone.
Don't act like a shopkeeper. And he's going to tell the phone number and all of that. Just use the QR code, Raja.
Chetan, just make it properly visible. No, dude, you are showing me the Ethereum address, not the Bitcoin address.
Where do I go?
Go into the top left menu. The Bitcoin, yes, it is. Scan QR.
Okay. Bitcoin address.
Confirm that it is it's BC1 starting with BC1 ending. Confirm it's ending with CQ8XD.
Yeah.
Cool. So you had 0.005, 0.00055. I'm gonna send you a very slow transaction, which is basically gonna save me some money. So it's gonna cost me only 2 cents. But you will receive that within 2 to 3 hours.
Thank you.
Can you see my QR code?
Raja, what all did you win?
I don't know.
Hey, you won both Ethereum and Bitcoin.
Oh, is it?
Damn.
Okay. This is Bitcoin.
Let me scan that. No, I can't see. It's not visible.
Yeah. Now?
Not clearly visible. Yep, ending EE3K1.
Yeah. I won something in quiz.
Sending you via slow transaction also.
$5.
That's your Ethereum address, right?
Yeah.
Dude, straightify it. How much was the Ethereum? 0.0022 or 21? 22. Yeah, Ethereum increased till from the time I actually put this. So you'll get a little bit more. Yeah. Okay, this is ending A97E.
Yeah.
0.0022. Cool. This I'll send via faster transaction. So you should receive within the next 2 minutes.
It's okay, dude. Slow transaction will do it. Fine.
A slower will just cost me like, so faster will cost me $0.21 and slower will cost me like $0.17.
Oh.
Because Ethereum पे gas prices have increased, so फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता है like उसमें.
Oh.
Slow, and you can't go more slower than that because उसमें my transaction जाएगी नहीं. ठीक है, send a slower like 0.17 जाएगा. Cool, कौन बच गया? राजा हो गया, चेतन हो गया.
Cool, I'll go next then.
Ekansh, go ahead. Ekansh, you're for Ethereum only, right?
It was, yeah, Ethereum.
ठीक है. Hey, there is a blue line happening. Why is there a blue line happening?
Let me change the direction. Just a second. Try now.
Yeah, ending FB03.
Yeah, that's the one.
Cool. I'll also send you a slower one. Within 30 minutes you will get it. It's actually, you will get it actually within 5 minutes. 30-minute thing happens within 5 minutes only.
What happens to transactions that fail in this system.
They'll just fail.
ये बैंक normal bank system में return जाता है ना money.
They'll just when they fail, basically it didn't go out from your wallet. But the thing is that if they fail, your transaction fee goes away. So there are no transaction failures typically don't happen in Bitcoin, because transaction failure only will happen if it's a malformed transaction. Otherwise, it's just transaction अगर उठ गया तो हो जाएगा. If it's Ethereum, it can fail because it's logic being executed. So if it fails, your transaction fee goes away, but your value remains with you. So Raja, your Ethereum already is in confirming stage. It's already happening, like 2 confirmations. You can
already got it.
Yeah. Dilshad was for BTC. Dilshad, are you showing your QR code? Yeah. It's not fully visible. Okay. Ending KK9J. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sending a slower transaction to you. Done. Cool. Congratulations, people. I hope you see how easy it is to just transfer flows just like that. Keep your seeds safe. It's completely your responsibility to figure out safety of these seeds. Yeah, any other questions?
Man.
All right, thank you so much for joining up. I hope it was fun. It was a lot of fun for me. I actually, while making this presentation, I actually learned a lot, because there were some things that were not clear to me. I knew superficially, but I had to dig into them to actually figure out what are the exact nuances and stuff. So even I learned. So I'm really glad that you guys also got the opportunity to learn a lot about this crypto ecosystem and stuff. And congratulations to all the people who won some crypto. And yeah, thank you for joining up, and have a nice night.
Thanks for the talk. I think little deep stuff for people.
Yeah, it went a little bit, but well, that's whoever wants to learn is here and is learning.
I think Dilshad was always into this, maybe from 2015.
Dilshad 2015, dude. Like, I am surprised. Dilshad is like an OG.
Yeah, OG at least. Here. Dilshad,
my friend,
what did you buy?
He told me like there is a thing, like you will get whatever we want, like from stuffs to gun. We just need to pay through crypto, and that's how we like search Google. First, when we paid first, we didn't get the thing like, and they told that they already shipped our like stuff. Okay, and later we didn't receive. Then we again paid. Then we received like a
How
full
much
package.
How much did you guys pay? How much did you guys pay?
We paid like 10K in the month.
Okay. Like then it was like maybe how many bitcoins? Like
You already had bitcoins at that time, or you used that to buy bitcoins and then gave bitcoins?
Yeah, we met a guy like that time in Bangalore. One guy like transferred Bitcoin to us, and we gave him in the money, and we paid that Bitcoin there.
So you never basically kept any bitcoins with you or any crypto with you. You just used that for that one transaction.
Yeah, only for the transaction. We just know we need to like uh, pay for that through crypto, so we just bought and paid.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those guys were like privacy conscious, so they wanted, and probably taxation conscious, so they just paid.
Yeah, in deep web, I think we can only pay through crypto, right?
Oh, if it was on deep web, acha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Then crypto makes sense. Okay, now I understand. Like, okay, 2015, cool.
Yeah. That's it.
Interesting.
It's nice, like we'll get everything. Like, we'll get everything.
Dilshad, I've recorded everything, man. Literally.
Yes.
Don't.
Yes.
Cut this part.
I so hope that my video gets recorded, man. I so hope that my video gets recorded. Let's see. I'm gonna stop recording after.
Right, I think it's a wrap. Thanks a lot, Vikram.
Yeah, this went into a 3-hour session.
Sure. Chalo, cheers. Good night.
Cool,
man. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you guys.
Night.